Good morning, everyone. I, Ananda Karthik, Senior Research Associate, DRAS, have the honor to extend a warm welcome to all of you on behalf of Defense Research and Studies to our own web series, DRAS Talks. DRAS is a web-based think tank comprising of an elite group of veterans, professionals, scholars, and young researchers to promote the culture of research and associated activities in the country. It's indeed my esteemed privilege to welcome Commodore G Prakash, Nausena Medal retired, to this interesting discussion today. Thank you so much, sir, for gracing this occasion today and joining us. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ananda. Glad that you have got me over for this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Today, we talk about the role of defense correspondence and the importance of formal specialized training for this extremely crucial portfolio that some esteemed journalists hold today. Being a media person myself and an academician, time and again, this topic has been of significant interest to me. Thus, when we young researchers decided to start this interview series with advisors, senior fellows, and other eminent personalities of DRAS, as well as dignitaries from other fraternities, this was a key topic that I wanted to discuss. There could have not been a more ideal person to discuss this particular topic with. Today, Commodore Prakash and I will discuss the nuances and intricacies of the symbiotic relationship that media and the armed forces share, the role of defense correspondence, and the importance of formal specialized training for the same. Let me begin by introducing Sir to you. Commodore G Prakash is a distinguished senior fellow at DRAS. He is an alumnus of Sainik School, Karakotam, and National Defense Academy, Karakwasla, Pune. He retired from the Indian Navy on 31st December 2019 after serving 35 years in the executive branch with air warfare and anti-submarine warfare as his specializations. He has been the commanding officer of 3 warships and 3 large bases, including INS Venduruti, the largest base of the Indian Navy. He has also been the director of the Maritime Warfare Center at Kochi. In his long career, he has traveled extensively abroad and has sailed a large part of the world's oceans. As the captain of INS Taragiri, he has led extensive relief operations in Sri Lanka after the tsunami of 2005. He has also been in a variety of roles spreading across training, strategizing, perspective planning, and administration. He is an alumnus of the prestigious Defense Services Staff College, Wellington, and the Naval War College. He holds an MPhil in Strategic Studies from Mumbai University. Today, he also guides MPhil students of Mumbai University through the Naval War College, Goa. He has been lecturing at the national level on several topics for over 20 years. He has lectured at the National Defense College, Delhi, Navy and Air Force War Colleges, College of Defense Management, and many other service institutions. He has also been delivering keynote addresses and lectures at think tanks and for corporate entities, civil service probationers, universities, colleges, and schools in India, and at various national and international seminars. He has also been teaching aspiring defense correspondents for the last 10 years. Salient topics of his interest span across strategic studies, military affairs, history, international maritime law, leadership, and motivation. He is a regular contributor to various newspapers and media platforms on a variety of topics, and several of his short stories have indeed been published too. He's also edited several joint service, naval, and civil publications. Sir has been awarded the prestigious Nausena Medal for his sustained meritorious service by the President of India on 26 January 2018. He is currently active in the areas of coaching, grooming, training, and mentoring. I'm sure you indeed understand the context of why we are discussing this very critical and important topic with Sir today. Without further ado, let me begin the session for today. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Ananda. Glad to be here.
Thank you, sir. The first question that I have for you today is: today, defense is not anymore just a beat for journalists. Defense correspondent has become a whole career path in itself. What is your opinion on this, sir?
Yeah, you are absolutely right. Defense journalism is a very exciting specialization. It is unique, it's varied, and just like what we enjoy in uniform, every day holds the promise of a new experience. But it's more than that. No, it is popular, has a lot of following. It involves attractive visuals of planes, tanks, ships, missiles, maps, etc., which allows fantastic modes of presentation across every form of media. Now, this gives it a huge appeal to young and old. Now, credible defense journalists are important influencers of public opinion, public perceptions, and they contribute greatly to driving national narratives for our security and well-being. They're actually very big stars. We have several in India, though I would say there is room for many more. They are knowledgeable, well networked, and do a lot of nuanced reporting. I have lots of friends also among them. Now, but it is also very exacting. It calls for plenty of preparation, hard work, and personal as well as professional skills. See, breaking news, grabbing eyeballs, sensationalism, etc., won't work in this field to gain credibility and success. But classical journalism alone, with diligent fact checks and research, will pay great dividend in this field. If you make it, the sky is the limit. And today, we have several defense journalists who have risen to the level of editors. I suppose Mr. Shekhar Gupta being a sterling example. So yes, you're right, Ananda. It's a very important, very exciting specialization in journalism.
That's very nice to hear, sir. So, your varied experience also lists teaching defense correspondence. Can you please tell us more about this? Because I'm sure our audience really want to listen to this.
Yeah, okay. The defense correspondence course is conducted by the Ministry of Defense, by the Directorate of PR. They do it every year. And these, over the years, it has transformed into, it has now come down. Earlier, it used to be a couple of months. It has come down to a month for the last 10 years or so. How journalists get enrolled for this is that you have to have at least 3 years of journalistic experience. You have to be below 35 years of age. You got to respond to an ad from the Ministry of Defense. You got to fill out a form. Now you should have published something or the other about either strategic affairs or military affairs or international relations in the past before you come for this some kind of a qualification. Then you apply to the Ministry of Defense, you submit an essay which they ask you to do, and thereafter they select about 40 people. Needless to say, the applicants would be much more than that. Now, the Ministry of Defense also ensures that the 40 who are selected are from various parts of India, equally distributed, from all kinds of media, and they ensure that there is only one per media house. The whole training is of 1 month, where they spent 10 days each with the Army, Navy, and Air Force. Now, including a forward area tour of the Army, where they are taken all the land borders, and the Navy gives them a sea experience. There is extensive lecturing from morning till evening, and many of I've been there with my students for long, and they say that probably that is the most the longest they would have all sat in the most disciplined way in a class for a month. And so lots of extensive lectures and a lot of physical exposure. I have personally conducted many and have been involved in this for about 10 years. Yes, so it's a very formal course conducted by the Ministry of Defense, at the end of which they give them a certificate to say that they have cleared this course.
Lovely, sir. Very, very interesting to hear. Uh, that seems like a very elaborate process, What is the requirement for such kind of specialized training? What do you see as being someone who has been on both sides, right? What is the requirement for such kind of specialized training?
Yeah, that's a very important question. By the way, let me say that the Ministry of Defense need not carry out any training, but they are forced to do it because no one else dedicates time and effort to develop the skills required for good defense journalism. Neither media houses nor most individuals. Also, I must tell you that the 1 month course that the Ministry of Defense does is nowhere near sufficient. This course is at best a basic primer. There is a lot of previous effort the journalist must possess and should have put in, and a stupendous amount of effort later in life. See, look, the problem is this: the armed forces are a very unique world with a unique ethos and a unique atmosphere. Now, what you see in the movies is not at all the real armed forces. It's most important to understand that world. Now, one of the main lectures that I personally have been taking for the Defense Correspondence course for the last 10 years is titled The Military Value System, where I try to make aspiring defense journalists understand our unique world. Now, this is normally the opening lecture, because this gives the necessary perspective to understand, absorb the lectures and experiences to follow in the course. And even now, I'm willing to continue to teach students of mass communication anywhere on this important area. Now, while technology and equipment are important, these are not the armed forces. Equipment and technology don't make the armed forces. In many cases, the fancy that people have as children for military equipment, guns and planes and missiles, it spills over into adulthood, and they continue to learn more about this. Many even develop great knowledge about military equipment and technology. But this won't be good enough for someone to become a good defense journalist. A senior defense journalist friend of mine, calls this video game journalism. Now, that is not defense journalism. The armed forces are actually the people in uniform, their ethos, and the system in which they work. Now, understanding this is the most important part of the supporting activities that journalists will have to undertake while they work on their stories, doing their research and interacting with people. So it's a very complex field. That's why you need a lot of training from formally as well as on their own to succeed in this field.
Very, very, very rightly said. Sir, can you tell me honestly, is it difficult to become a good defense journalist? What are the requirements for someone to become to become a defense correspondent or to become a defense journalist? What is it that they should prepare for?
Okay, they should prepare for a lot of excitement, but a good defense journalist, has to be a good all-rounder. There's no doubt in that. So the military is one of the most complex multidisciplinary fields. It contributes to national security, another multidisciplinary field, a field probably of the greatest importance to any country. Now, understanding of military geography, military history, military economics, military equipment, basics of warfare, national security, international law. There are even specialist areas like the United Nations conventions of the laws of the sea, UNCLOS, airspace management, military technology are all important. They also must know, say, civil military relationship, the military structure, what the constitution demands of the armed forces, diplomacy, all these are important, and their linkages. Now, I will tell you an instance, a story about the importance of understanding how linked everything in the world is. I have been taking a lecture for the IAS, IPS, IFS, IRS probationers for many years now, titled 3000 Years of India's National, 3000 Year Perspective of India's National Security. Now, I trace the events from 1000 years before Christ and bring it down to now and explain to them as to how we are today, today's world in which we are living and reporting on and administering and surviving in, is a product of the last 3000 years, a continuous events of that. Now, the civil service students are very good students. When they would have been very good students, that's how they get into the civil services. And they're unanimous in one opinion of theirs. They say that, sir, we knew almost everything that you said in its individual, capacity, but we never knew the linkage, how the whole thing is linked. Now, unless you have that kind of linkage, you can never be successful in multidisciplinary fields. And the defense is one particular place like that. And there's a lots and lots of reading that has to go behind becoming a successful defense journalist.
Very, very rightly put, sir. It's very interesting that we're having this discussion today. Great. So, other than teaching aspiring defense correspondents, have you had any other personal experiences dealing with media itself?
Oh, yes, that's a very short answer because, yes, like many naval officers, I have had a long association with the media. See, since we in the Navy travel around a lot in the world and in the country, unlike the Army and or the Air Force, we get more opportunities to interact with the media in India and abroad. And this opportunity increases when one is commanding ships or shore units. So I have had many experiences in India and abroad. Yes, I have had many.
So, could you please elaborate on some unique experiences? We would really like to know, sir.
Okay, see, my initiation where I initially start talking to the media is when I was commanding a frigate called INS Taragiri. That was from 2004 to 2006. So 2004 means I got commissioned in. I had 20 years of service, and I was just touching 40. When I took the ship first to the Gujarat ports and to Karwar, the old port in Karwar and Goa, for the Navy Day visits, traditional visits. Now that's the time when the commanding officer has to face the media and answer questions. That was my initiation. Now, but a consolidation came after a couple of. That was the end of 2004. December 2004, the Navy Week activities. In 2005, I was sent to Sri Lanka in the beginning, in January itself, 15th of January, to undertake tsunami relief activities. And that is the time when I really got exposed to international media, both national and international. It was virtually raining, journalists there. And right from Washington Post to Seattle Times to Doordarshan, across the spectrum, I had to talk to them. And yes, I learned a lot of stuff, which of course I will not reveal here. And but then the real consolidation came later in 2000, about 2 years after that. After my ship tenure in 2008, when I was something called the Command Aviation Officer in the headquarters of Eastern Naval Command. That means as the man responsible for all naval aviation activities on the east coast of India. That was the time in 2008. There was this tragedy called the Chitrakonda tragedy. What happened was that about 38 policemen were killed in an ambush by Maoists in the hills of Chitrakonda, which is on the border between Andhra Pradesh and Odisha. Now it's in the mountains. It is in a lake. They were patrolling in a lake when they were ambushed, and there was only one road leading up to the to Chitrakonda. So it could have been mined, so it couldn't have been used. So this entire operation of rescue and had to be done by helicopters, naval, coast guard, and Air Force helicopters, which came in, and I had the duty of coordinating that. Now, during that, see what happened is that the Chitrakonda reservoir is a huge reservoir which is among mountains, and this boat had gone down somewhere. There were no eyewitnesses left, so nobody knew exactly where the thing happened. So it takes time for the initial zeroing in onto the boat. It takes time. Now, as time passed by, there were murmurs in the media. There was there were reports that the Navy probably was not up to the task, which is absolutely misplaced. So I actually wrote for the command. I wrote out a piece. To be given as a press release to be given out as a press release when the media carried it. Now, what did I say in that? I just simply said the facts. Now, it's a fact of life that in the Chitrakonda reservoir, huge trees are lying in a huge jigsaw puzzle, when they're under at the bottom, and it's got jagged mountains, so it's jagged bottom. Divers would traditionally use one of the techniques they use is called dredging the bottom. You just drag a weighted rope across the bottom of any water body, and if it gets stuck somewhere, you go down and check what is an object. Now, this was not possible here because of the nature of the bottom. Secondly, the boat's position itself was not known. Okay, so we flew in side scan sonars from ships, and they finally found the thing. Now it was lying at about 17 meters to 40 meters. Now that is the kind of incline you see. The boat was lying on its left side with its face down. There are only small little windows to enter through. Now the divers, with all their equipment, have to go down to 40 meters and get into this. Now by now, time had also elapsed. There is nil visibility underwater. Whatever light comes from their helmets, it doesn't penetrate beyond a few feet. Now, since time had gone past, the bodies stuck inside the boat were also now bloated, and they were, say, 3 times, 4 times the original size. Now, at 40 meters depth, a diver cannot go down and come up in one go because that's against the laws of physics. He will die if he does that. So he has to stop at an intermediate depth for 5 minutes to acclimatize his body and then come up or go down. Now imagine a 20 or 30-year-old diver going down and picking up a dead body, which is 3 times his body size, and bringing it out, embracing it, and standing in absolute pitch dark for at about, say, 20 meters depth for 5 minutes to acclimatize. Can you imagine the terror of this entire thing? So all we do was to describe this correctly and give it as a press note. The media immediately did its job, and the public opinion completely changed, and the Navy soon found the boat, and everybody was brought out and everyone was accounted for. But that is the time I understood the power of the media and the importance of doing diligent work and actually working for the media. The media needed information, and this was not information which the media could have gleaned on their own at that moment. So the Navy had to actually do it. But it did its job. It was very honorable. And finally, the opinion changed, and the Navy came out the winner in this entire event. So that is where I actually consolidated. And thereafter, of course, I've had many more experiences. Ananda.
Wow. Sir, kudos to you and your wonderful service, sir. I'm so glad that you narrated this incident. I'm so glad that you narrated this to us, because it truly shows how media can work as a nation building tool also. I'm so glad you had narrated the story to us, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Sir, what is your take on embedded journalism? I know that many people consider it to be a sort of a double-edged sword. What is your personal take on this?
Yeah, look, it's good and bad. It's nothing new. Thucydides in the Peloponnesian War, which happened 400 years before Jesus Christ, also was a part of that war, and we reported on that war. And today, what Thucydides wrote is still studied, analyzed. Now, that was the war, between Athens and Sparta 400 years ago, and it's still relevant. Now, the Americans had their own experiences in the Vietnam War. And because of that, how they reacted was that they carefully conducted this whole thing in the 1991 Gulf War, in the Iraq War. And it only made CNN a big entity by bringing a war into drawing rooms. And when they started, and the Americans, I suppose, had more bad experiences, bad conclusions rather, than good ones. So they started off the Afghan war in 2001 on a very careful note, and carefully controlling everything. But by 2003, I think the sheer demand from the media and the weight of the demand made them open up, and they used them for a lot of information warfare. Now, India has also had its own experience in Kargil. There was the controversy, there were the discussions whether it was good to have had that and bad to have had that, and I think there were pluses and minuses, but we were learning. But there is one example of the 26/11 when it happened, when Taj was burning. There was this live reporting that was going on from on the spot. And it took some time for us to realize that we were actually providing free intelligence to the handlers who were sitting in Pakistan and conducting this operation. So we have come a long way. We have learned from all that. But at the end of the day, look, it gives you plenty of scope for information warfare. It can degrade enemy morale. It can boost our own. So war is not like a football match or a cricket match where rules are laid down and everything is crystal clear. Where the moment you have a point of conflict, you go to the third umpire or a group of referees or something like that. There's nothing like that. There is this battle called the Battle of Jutland in the Second World War. In the First World War, where the an inferior German fleet faced a very superior British fleet. But the British fleet, for certain reasons, did not have the resounding victory which they fantasized that they will get. And this is halfway through the First World War. And this is the only major naval fleet action of the very famous the Royal Navy. But at the end of the day, they had not got what the country expected them to get. What did they do? They immediately followed up by knighting, giving medals, giving laurels, to the admirals and the captains and various people involved in the battle, despite hiding the fact that actually they had not gained what they were supposed to have got, because it was important to drive perceptions. And all action against this whole thing was taken only after the war was finished, because it's not great to let the enemy know that you've not done a great job while a war is on. Battles can be plenty. War is only one, and within that there are many battles. So what you reveal of that and how you milk it of what it really is or isn't are all very important factors. It's information warfare. So as a fighting man, I am for it, definitely. But it has got to be curated correctly. It's got to be handled well by experienced people with a lot of oversight. That's it.
Lovely, sir. In fact, 2611 is a very important case study. I teach media ethics for college students. So I understand this is one example we always give them, that remember, it is a double-edged sword. You need to be ethical as content creators. I'm so happy that we're having this discussion today. I'm going to ensure that every student of mine listens to this, and I hope that in the near future you will be able to personally come and do a session for our students too. It would be really intriguing, sir. So, sir, coming to the other side, what exactly are the issues faced by the armed forces when it comes to handling media? I can say, I'm sure that there's a very stringent SOP in place, but what exactly are the major issues that you face, especially in this era of information warfare? I know you had elaborated about it in the previous question, but defense specific, could you please elaborate, sir?
Yeah, journalist after journalist has told us that no one needs to handle the media. The media are adults; they are professionals of their own, on their own right, and they need not be handled by anybody. And I completely agree with them, because I wouldn't also want any other professional to handle me in my professional functioning. So, having said that, I must say this that. The armed forces, there is, I think it is Nitin Gokhale who said this, that there are no two professions so capable of misunderstanding each other than the armed forces and the media. No, they're just waiting to misunderstand each other. This is Nitin Gokhale's statement. I agree with him. Because there are essential differences. The armed forces are a very homogeneous entity. That means an airman sitting in, Arunachal Pradesh and a naval commodore in Cochin and a colonel in Punjab, we all have the same ethos, the same thought process, the same value system, and we consider all of us consider each other a part of us. Now, that means if you have a wrong report about something that happens in, say Himachal Pradesh, which will affect it. I sitting in Cochin will feel equally hit, by that report. I feel bad because we are one, homogeneous. Whereas the media isn't. While taking classes, we do take examples of one or what we perceive as misdemeanor or a misstep or a wrong word from a media house in one particular report or something like that as an example, and they would rise up in arms and say, no, 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 please don't use that against us because we are not homogeneous. Mistake done by someone, which applies to him or her, and it doesn't apply to the entire media. So, having said that, it's also a fact that the armed forces are not trained in handling media. Let's face it. We are equipped, trained for war. We are selected for war. But all the time you are in the media for anything other than war. Now, how do you do that? It's by adapting. Now, when we did tsunami relief in Sri Lanka, what were we? We were all actually trained to operate a warship or on a warship, and not to pitch tents or build toilets or lay electric lines or clean wells and check out railway lines. That is not a job. So how do we do that? We did that by adapting. Now, why adapting? Because that is the basic, fundamental essence, the essential requirement of the armed forces. As they say, the best of plans flounder at the first contact with the enemy. Now, thereafter, you have to play with settings that are there every moment. The real settings, you have to play according to that. So you have to adapt. Now, that kind of adaptation into military matters and use of your equipment and your resources and training is easy. But when it comes to an absolutely different entity like the media, which has got its own DNA, it becomes a bit more difficult. That adaptation. So hence, a lot is left to capabilities of individuals. Their maturity, their upbringing, and how they've equipped themselves intellectually to actually handle variables, because these are variables, very different variables. Okay. Now, so that it also, those skills actually come from individuals. And there are several challenges. Most often exact information is not available. I mean, something that happens in Siachen or something that happens at sea or in the air, who knows exactly what has happened? No, there is no point in putting out some news. There is no breaking news. There is nothing to break in this, because it's not going to gain anything. You might have to retract the whole thing later. And there's also a need for secrecy, as I told you from the Jutland example. In battles, you don't go and reveal a lot of things. And there are no professional PR people. Remember, it is people in uniform only who do PR jobs also. On top of that, we have this strict hierarchical structure, which makes decision making slow, naturally. But these are understood now, and they're changing. But then the media is also changing with new challenges from social media and the constant push for TRPs and eyeballs and attention. But at the end of the day, it's what you said is correct. There is a lot of challenge in this, and these are two completely unlikely systems trying to cooperate with each other. So together we'll have to find a solution ahead, but things are looking better.
I'm so glad we had this discussion today. It's been, to say the least, very intriguing, very interesting, sir. I would like to please place on record my heartfelt thank you to you for joining us today and to be a part of Dras Talks. This is a very unique initiative that we have started, and boy, am I glad that we started this. Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you, Ananda.
It's a privilege and honor to be a part of this.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Ananda.
so
Wish you all
much,
the
sir.
best. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Also, I would like to convey my heartfelt thanks to our distinguished senior fellows and my fellow research associates of DRAS, who are a part of our esteemed family, who are enthusiastically contributing to this wonderful series of talks in various capacities. And of course, lastly, I should communicate my thanks to the strength of our discussion, our dear guest audience. I mean, a special welcome to all the retired and serving flag officers, veterans, researchers, serving officers, students, and all of us for thanking you. I would like to thank you for joining us today in watching this show, and hoping to continue this discussion in various forms with various senior officers like you and enhancing our knowledge too. Jai Hind, good day.
Thank you. Well done. Bye.